All right, welcome back, everybody. Let's get an update on tariffs and trade. We have Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick. Secretary Lutnick, thank you, old friend. Now, I know that Wall Street wants deals, but they have to be good deals. I understand that. As a supporter of the president's reciprocity policy, it's got to be fair trade, tariffs, non-tariff barriers, and so forth. What's your outlook right now? I know last week you seemed optimistic about something close in. What can you tell us today?
I feel really, really good, right? The countries, remember, the president came out with tariffs that were pretty high. And then he said, look, I'll drop it down to 10%. Tell me what you're going to do for America. It's not fair. We have $1.2 trillion trade deficit. And what people don't really think about much is if you knock that down 25% and at a $900 billion trade deficit, that's 1% GDP for the United States of America. I mean, $300 billion of trade, 1% for America, and people just don't think about it. You start bringing those factories home, that's another point of GDP. You could have the gentleman in the Oval Office drive 2 and 3 points GDP to the United States of America from behind his desk, and that is just so much fun.
The best part of that would be market openings, it seems to me. I mean,
Exactly.
Our economy, if we hit on all cylinders, because of the Trump program, tax cuts, deregulation, spending restraint, energy, trade, et cetera, we will grow faster than the rest of the world. My view, we'll never eliminate the trade deficit, nor should we. The trick is, however, more exports, more market access from countries that have denied us market access.
I mean, people don't think about how great America is, right? We invent everything, right? The iPhone, the greatest AI chips, all these things, pharmaceuticals, they've all been invented by America. Why is our GDP growth so similar to the rest of the world? It's because we're feeding the rest of the world with these trade deficits, and they close their markets to us, and we open our markets to them. It's time for that to become more fair. If they open their markets to us and we can export and we bring back those great manufacturing jobs, right? Why are all these AI chips, why should they all be made in Taiwan? Why should they be made in America? Start building these factories in America, and you're going to start to see our GDP basically lap all the other countries in the world because we are the creator. We are it.
Who's first up?
Oh,
who's
great
on the
countries.
docket?
Always, it's got to be a top 10 economy. If it's not a top 10 economy, it's not fun. So, of course, it's going to be a top 10
that
economy.
Narrows it.
What's that?
A top 10 economy from Asia?
Listen, the Asian markets are very complex. And there's a lot of talking to do, right? To get these things right, you've got to do a lot of talking. Now, we've only got 90 days, and we only got 60 left. So these things are coming. But you got to be patient. Now, we're going to get some deals done pretty soon. The president will decide when he announces it because, remember, I'm his commerce secretary. I do the work. But the boss, and you know the boss as well as anybody in the world.
I do.
And this is his deal to make.
But I'm told.
And his deal to do.
No, I appreciate that. It's got to be a good deal. But I'm told, for example, India has already brought tariffs down quite a bit, on paper to be sure. Now, they have a million regulations of non-tariff barriers, which my hunch is probably holding things up. But they have brought their tariffs down quite a bit. Is that fair?
That is fair. India's at the table really doing extraordinary things that no one else has ever done. Donald Trump will change the way trade is done. You know, it used to be 2 years to do a little deal. Now we're doing gigantic deals in 90 days. So he's going to open these markets in a way the markets have never been opened before. He's going to help America grow in a way that it hasn't grown before. We're going to bring factories home, pharmaceuticals, autos, right, semiconductors. Those factories are going to start coming home, and you're going to see growth in America as we build those factories. And I'm telling you, this feels really, really good.
As you know, John Carney, the new Prime Minister of Canada, is coming to town tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken. Mark Carney, sorry. John Carney is a good economist at Breitbart. So Mark Carney, whom I've met, is central banker. Are you optimistic? Can we make a deal with Canada?
I think it's really complex. I think this is really complex because they have been basically feeding off of us for decades upon decades upon decades, right? They have their socialist regime, and it's basically feeding off of America. I mean, the president calls that out all the time. Why do we make cars in Canada? Why do we do our films in Canada? Come on. So I think the president's going to have, I think it's going to be a fascinating meeting. I'm glad I'm going to be there listening, but it's going to be a fascinating meeting tomorrow. I just don't see how it works out so perfectly.
But you're not going to bust up USMCA. That deadline is next year for the final review.
Correct. So next year is coming. So a lot of things are going to be put into that.
So if it's USMCA compliant, you're okay.
I think for now it's okay, but I think what you should expect to see is a real revisiting of USMCA in a year, because Donald Trump, remember what was fun about USMCA, remember when he renegotiated the deal, he wanted an exit clause in 3 years. And they said, no way, we're only going to have a 6-year exit clause because we don't want to negotiate with you. And now the Biden election went the way, with the election getting stolen from our president. And now here they are negotiating with Donald Trump. And I don't think they're very happy about that.
One thing I want to add, I don't know. I mean, Mr. Trump says that China and the U.S. have been in discussions at some level. Sometimes the Chinese say yes, sometimes the Chinese say no. I don't know what the right story is. I do want to say this, as someone who was on the China trade team in the first term, and we negotiated the so-called Phase 1 deal. Secretary Howard Lutnick, they did not comply. They did not.
What a shock.
They did not comply on fentanyl. They did not comply on intellectual property theft. They did not comply on ending forced transfer of technologies. They did not comply on food commodities or manufacturing commodities. In short, they didn't comply with anything.
So this is experience talking, right? You were at the table last time.
I'm not their biggest fan.
So you know that our president, right, has a very clear and very knowledgeable view of this. He's no neophyte. He's been through this before. And he wants it to be a fair trading relationship with China. And he assumes they're going to keep doing what they always do. So he says, look, I've got to have a tariff on them. I have to have a tariff on them.
While the talks are going on.
Always. So let's de-escalate. Of course, that's the concept. Let's figure out a way to de-escalate together.
We did that the last time, too, Howard. We did that the last time. They just cannot be trusted. I mean, I'm saying Wall Street, I hear this from Wall Street and bankers, China, let's get something going with China. Okay, fine, let's get something going with China. But China never implements these deals. That's the problem.
Well, we're an open market, and they're a managed, closed market. Their government decides everything, and our government basically wants our people to just thrive and be entrepreneurial and get their deals done. So I think it's just a different way of thinking. Donald Trump understands it. He's going to be the driver of that policy. And I'm excited that he's at the desk because he's the person.
You're going to be involved in those talks, China talks?
Well, I think we've given it. Well, of course, there's lots of pieces to it, but Scott Bessent is heading that up.
Yeah.
And that's his. And I'm only responsible for all the other countries. I got plenty to do.
I would love to see progress. I would. But I just have to say, from my experience, they never comply. And that's what makes China, China. And it's a terrible story. I mean, we had the tariffs on before. I got to get out. I know you're a busy chap.
But you're a completely different person on this TV because you sat there and you did it. You're not talking about ideas. You are speaking from experience and knowledge.
Bob Lighthizer, who was a trade genius, all right, there's no better negotiator than Bob Lighthizer. There's probably no one more knowledgeable than Bob Lighthizer, okay? These are the best in the business. He led us, Mnuchin, myself, Wilbur Ross, and so forth. We went down. We did everything we could. We went there, here. Cut a deal, much ballyhoo. They didn't do it. They didn't do it, including the fentanyl. We just had Attorney General Bondi on here. They didn't make good on the fentanyl problem. So I'm just saying, make a deal with Vietnam, India, South Korea, Taiwan, all of them. Make a deal with them before you make a deal with China. You can't cuss China. Howard Lutnick, Commerce Secretary, I got to get out of here. I'd love to talk to you for another half hour.